Hello and welcome to the Browns Blitz. Today is September 1st. I'm your host, Rod Bloom. Joining me today is my friend Alec Saploin. Alec, how are things going?
Man, it's just like you threw up the bat signal, Rod. Whenever you need me, I'm always ready to roll. Man, it's good to be back, and it's good to be talking Cleveland Browns football as we are now officially about 10 or 9 days away from game one.
Yeah, I almost choked on my words saying September 1st. I'm like, man, when did it get to... I know we've been waiting on football, but I barely got my name out because I stumbled on the September 1st. I didn't get the day of the week out. But yeah, September 1st, it's like the year is fleeting, but you know what? This is the time of year we've been waiting for.
It really is, just going back and talking about it since January, because guess what? We actually had January football for once. Going back since January, going through all the process of grieving after a division round loss to actually looking forward to sitting back and drinking a beer for our draft pick, and then going through free agency, and as well as that, just going on and on about practices, about this training camp that's been brutal for our Cleveland Browns. And now, after 3 weeks of preseason games where the Browns have looked like a pretty good football team, we're going to be getting right into it.
Yeah. So before we dive into the Browns, first of all, I want to get an update on you because you've started a new job, and I don't think you were working this job last time you were on a podcast. So I kind of want to hear where you're at with your position. So let's talk about that for a minute.
Yeah. So by the grace of God, completing my undergraduate degree at the University of Oregon in June, I made the move back to Cleveland, Ohio, and now I am a reporter for the Chagrin Valley Times, a newspaper covering all things Geauga County. So you'll see the Geauga Times Courier, Solon Times, and Chagrin Valley Times, all under the Times Publishing Group based out of Cleveland, Ohio.
Nice. And you were only there like a week when you sent me a shot of a story of yours, like on the front page.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool.
I mean, it's crazy. They let anybody on the front page these days, man. The standards, it's just like college graduates. The standards have dropped significantly. What the hell's going on?
So I trust you're enjoying your work. It's really cool that you got this position in the industry, that you're going to school for and everything, because that doesn't happen to everybody.
It doesn't. And I like to say that it's a tri-B. It is based by blessing. Man, it's just been the biggest blessing in the world that I've been able to do something that I know how to do, that I studied to do, that I paid that I'm paying $25,000 in student loans for God's sakes. But no, it's really good to actually say, you know what, I did something with my degree, and I'm going to continue doing this something with my degree.
Yeah. And that's excellent. And I have a feeling it's just the beginning for you. So I'm really happy for the start for you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And one more segment here. Let's talk about what we're drinking, because you've been a little bit mysterious with me about what you have in front of you there. So I know I think you normally drink beer, but I know you mix it up a little bit. So what do you have in front of you there, Alec?
I actually have the Botanist. It is an island flowery gin mixed with a little bit of seltzer water because I ran out of tonic and I'm too lazy to go to the store and get more. So I'm drinking a little bit of gin. I feel like an old man, had a long day. After we finish this podcast, I'm going to finish this. It's like taking the grape cough syrup and it'll knock my ass out completely.
Okay. All right. I am not that type of a drinker. You guys know I am a beer drinker. Got the fridge to prove it. I'm working on the fridge. I every time I go to the grocery or any place else like that, man, the I'm trying to keep the power of resistance of buying more beer because I'm really trying to work my way through what I've got. And it's slowly but surely that the stock is working its way down. Once I get down far enough, then I'll go on some kind of a buying binge again. But I'm drinking a Victory Golden Monkey. Fortunately, I've got quite a few of these left, and it's a pretty high alcohol, content beer. I think it's like 9% or something. But
just nurse the hell out of that, man. You'll be fine.
oh, it's a good beer. It's got a great flavor. If anybody hasn't had it, I've probably talked about it 3-4 times on the podcast. Give it a shot. Definitely a good beer, and I'm going to enjoy it while we're talking some Browns.
That's the only way you can enjoy it, Rod.
Yeah. All right. So, the Browns had to cut down to 53 guys, and then today there was a waiver process and all this. I mean, I think we thought there was, in the practice squad getting set up, and I think I don't know about you, I thought there was going to be, more, a little more action today than what actually happened. I thought we might see the Browns make, some claims or maybe sign some guys or something. It's pretty apparent some things are still going to happen because the Browns have spots open on the practice squad. So I think we're still going to see some movement, but today was kind of a quiet day when you look at everything. But let's talk about getting down to that initial 53, and I kind of wanted to get your thoughts. I put who I thought was going to be on the 53 out on Twitter, and I was right on 48 out of the 53 guys.
That's not bad.
No, I thought it was pretty close, and actually, so I missed 5 guys, and 4 of those guys, well, actually, 3 of those guys were on the practice squad, and one of them was Joe Jackson, who's now actually on the 53. So the only guy I missed was Kaderl Hodge.
Really?
Yeah. It's really the only guy who's not with the team anymore.
Yes, as he was just picked up by the Detroit Lions, which is really good for the Detroit Lions. I'll tell you what, he's going to do really well as a wide receiver 1 or in that wide receiver room with a, to be quite honest with you, with a stud like Jared Goff. He had an off year for a while, but and that was very apparent before the trade from Los Angeles for Matthew Stafford, which shook up the entire league. But just talking about what you were just saying just previously here, when you have a team and you think that they would be doing more, that can be either two things. It could be either A, it could be that they're doing really bad, they don't know what the hell they're doing. Or you have B, as in Andrew Berry, who knows that what he has is good. So it didn't surprise me personally, seeing the lack of action from Mr. Berry and the front office staff there in this first day, if you will, of waiver wires and being able to claim different people. Personally, and yes, I'm going to be biased as all hell, I wanted to see the Cleveland Browns pick up cornerback Thomas Graham Jr. from the University of Oregon, who was on the Browns staff or on the Bears, and he got picked up by Chicago again. But obviously, I have to be biased because that's someone that not only did I go to school with, I've had classes with, I've had conversations with. He's such a good guy and a hard worker. But I will say the shock of the cuts was really Kaderl Hodge.
Mm-hmm.
And just seeing that, it's such a tough position because, not to go into the whole conversation, but this is the wide receiver room. Jarvis Landry, Donovan Peoples-Jones, Rashard Higgins, Anthony Schwartz, and some schmuck named Odell. I mean, you look at that wide receiver room, you have everything. You have guys that can run routes like Jarvis Landry. You have go-get-ems like Odell and Higgins. You have your tall wide receiver core that is Donovan Peoples-Jones. You have your speedster and Anthony Schwartz. That is such a tough position to be in if you're on a wide receiver, if you're in the wide receiver room looking in. So you have guys like JoJo Natson and Kaderil Hodge and Davion Davis, who was placed on the suspension list, but that's a completely different story. And Jamarcus Bradley. You have those guys, and they're on the outside looking in. And yes, it sucks. It always sucks because a football player gets told that they're out of a job. But at the end of the day, from a team standpoint, you look at it and you're like, that's a really tough decision to make because one of those guys can go anywhere and be a star.
You're right. And when I put, shortly after I put that 53 man out, that the tweet out showing my 53 guys, I was talking with a couple people and I said, I really was not totally comfortable with listing the Browns carrying 6 wide receivers, only because of the type of offense I feel like Kevin Stefanski's going to run. And I don't know if the Browns, I didn't really feel confident that the Browns wanted 6 wide receivers on the roster because you got the two-headed monster at running back, and we know how Stefanski likes to use the tight ends. I mean, I don't know how often they're going to have, they're going to go 3 wide occasionally. They may go 4 wide, but it's not going to be a lot. So the more I looked at it, I'm like, I wouldn't be surprised if somebody goes, but I hate to be the guy to make the decision as to who, even though we knew it pretty much had to be, that it was probably going to be Higgins or Hodge, and it probably wasn't going to be Higgins.
Yeah, I mean, he just got signed back, and the real, I didn't even look at it when it came down to it, if it was him on the border, because in reality, you had a list of Donovan Peoples-Jones versus Rashard Higgins for wide receiver 3, which I think Rashard Higgins won just barely. I don't know yet, but that's
Yeah, I'll kind of be surprised if DPJ is not really wide receiver 3. If he's not now, I think he will be
next year. Next year he's going
maybe middle of the season. Yeah.
You're right. Even middle of the season. And Anthony Schwartz, we signed him in, I believe, the 3rd round. That I knew was going to be a lock. I knew he wasn't in the contention for running 4 or for running 3. He is going to be a wide receiver 4. And to think about that, where you have a speedster of a wide receiver that is Anthony Schwartz, and Madden, he has like the 3rd highest or one of the highest speed ratings in the game, but that's, that's a completely different story, where you learn from powerhouse tight ends or powerhouse wide receivers and perennial Hall of Famers, where you have Jarvis Landry and Odell Beckham Jr. in the same locker room with you. If I was any wide receiver that got drafted by the Cleveland Browns, I would be in heaven. That is like the Fort Knox of information, the cream de crop of wide receiver knowledge that you can get out of 2 wide receivers. Yes, you have DeAndre Hopkins. Yes, you have really good wide receivers out there. I'm blanking on some of them. Tyreek Hill. You have, who is it? From the Seahawks. I'm blanking here. Tall dude. I'm blanking on him.
Oh, the big muscle guy. Yeah.
Yeah, big muscle guy. Big muscles. I forget. DK Metcalf. There it goes.
DK Metcalf.
Jesus Christ. That's what the gin does to me, ladies and germs. No. Yeah, DK Metcalf. You have all of these really good wide receivers, but you have 2 that you have on the same team that are so good in so many ways that you can learn from. Dude, Anthony Schwartz is going to be friggin' fantastic in 2 or 3 years. Hell, even next year, maybe.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I'm going to go way off topic here because I had a conversation with somebody, and I know how attached people are to Jarvis Landry, and I love Jarvis Landry. But we know this the guys that need to be extended on this team, and we know that once this team starts winning, the more guys are going to command more money. So here's my question for you. The Browns have Donovan Peoples-Jones. They have Demetric Felton, who is undoubtedly going to grow into a great slot receiver. I really think he's going to be. What's that?
Out of Pac-12 UCLA, by the way.
Okay. And hopefully Anthony Schwartz, if he blossoms, then you've got three receivers who not only can be a great core for you, but guys who, if you look at DPJ and Felton, those guys aren't costing you anything over the next 3-4 seasons. Okay. Even Schwartz what round was he taking in, the third or the fourth? I can't remember which round he was taking in, third, right? So his contract's not big. So he's not commanding real big money over the next 3 seasons either. I think you know where I'm going with this. How much do we need to see out of these guys to feel like the Browns, and people are going to hate me for saying it, but to feel like the Browns could move on from both OBJ and Jarvis? And I'm not only saying that because of the emergence of these guys, but look at the ability of Andrew Berry to find talent. And if he can find these guys, why can't he find 2 other guys too? Okay. Now, I'm not saying I'm ready to do this now. I'm very happy that OBJ and Jarvis are here, but in a season or two, when these guys are emerging and they're not costing you anything, you have to find ways to save money in order to keep your talent on a winning team. I see a strong core with those 3 guys, assuming that they can all take the next step, which you'll see this season and next. And you'll see the ability of AB to truly bring in wide receiver talent. And I'm not even talking about Davion Davis and other guys like this that he can just bring in off the street and they look like they should be a number 2 on some other team. So what are your thoughts on that? And I'm not going to paint you into a corner or anything, but what are your thoughts on that?
Oh, that's fine. That's fine. And I'm going to answer your question with a question. Did you see how well Andrew Berry handled Nick Chubb? Did you see how well you have a undoubted top 3 running back in the league? You have Christian McCaffrey, you have Derrick Henry, you have Nick Chubb. Undoubted.
You won't get an argument from me other than whether he's even that low or not.
That's fair.
I love Nick Chubb.
At the very least, I'm saying at the very least.
Absolutely.
Don't hit me for it. At the very least, he's top 3. May not even be 2 or 3.
Yes.
Andrew Berry got him on a 3-year, 36 mil deal.
Yeah.
Making $12 million a year.
Mm-hmm.
For a running back that can and will be a future Hall of Fame prospect.
Yeah.
Mind you, the other individual in the running back room of Georgia from 2017 to 18 just got traded to the Rams. And people were judging the Cleveland Browns for taking Nick Chubb over the individual named Sony Michel.
Well, Sony Michel went first in the draft. He did. He went before Nick.
He did.
Yeah.
Which is what I said. So my big thing is you have a top 3 running back. Andrew Berry knew cap space is an issue. He knew that being able to pay everybody is going to be an issue. He wants to work with people that want to stay in Cleveland. Jarvis Landry said that he's happy in Cleveland. Odell said he's happy in Cleveland. and it's a big if, obviously, because this is like a nuclear situation, because everybody has to get paid. Baker has to get paid. You have tight ends coming up and getting paid. You have Denzel Ward getting paid. You have so many guys that need money.
Yeah, and the more you win, the more guys need money.
Exactly.
Is an issue too.
And you know what? I'll even add to that. We just locked up Kareem Hunt, who before he decided to prove himself in kickball, he decided to go off in Kansas City and be an absolute monster.
Yeah.
We just locked him up for another year or two.
Mm-hmm.
Why can't Andrew Berry do that with Jarvis Landry and Odell Beckham?
You know what? If he can make the money work with those guys and still keep the other key pieces in place, that's great. That's great.
It's gonna be tough.
It'll be very tough.
You have Odell Beckham. Obviously, it's tough.
I mean, you look at the offensive line and you've got guys making a lot of money and other guys that are going to either command money or you're going to have to replace.
Shit, I completely forgot. Wyatt Teller, too. That's a big name. He's going to make that work. There's so many guys that he has to make work, but if he can, and I think he can, it's going to be great.
I don't know I just don't know if you can keep everybody. I mean, but if anybody can figure it out, it's Andrew Berry and his staff.
He's a mastermind. He's a nerd. He knows this stuff.
I agree. And I'm of the mindset that if somebody is going to go, that Wyatt Teller is probably a guy who they would let go just because of Bill Callahan and his, and some of the guys they have behind Wyatt Teller, and not that somebody's going to come in and be Wyatt Teller. I mean, grade out as the fourth best player in the league or anything, but you're talking about a guard, and when you have a great offensive line, if you can plug in a guard that plays very well, he doesn't have to be an all-pro to maintain, an excellent offensive line. So, and if they could do that and save themselves $15 million a year, then that might be a smart spot to save money. But if they can get Wyatt Teller on the right deal, I certainly don't have an issue with it.
Yeah, absolutely. No, but it just goes back to my question. Why can't he? I think Andrew Berry is able to. It's just how he's able to. That's the big thing.
They can, but I'm going to go back to the wide receiver thing. Part of my point there too is with this offense, how many good wide receivers do the Browns really need? How many good wide receivers do you really want to carry on this roster? I mean, obviously you want as much depth as you can get, but do you need to be 7 or 8 deep at wide receiver, or can this offense really play well with 3 or 4 really good wide receivers?
So I think that obviously in any situation, the more is better. You don't know when things are going to happen. I'll take last year's game when we played in Cincinnati for an example. Odell Beckham popped his knee. He is done for the year, torn ACL. Granted, he came back really fast, and he's looking better than before his injury.
Mm-hmm.
You had people step up. That's where you had your Jarvis Landry, your Donovan Peoples-Jones, your Rashard Higgins, your Kadarius Hodges. That's where you had your guys step up. When Nick Chubb went down in Dallas, that's where you had your Kareem Hunt, your Dearness Johnson step up. When you had Wyatt Teller go down, that's where you had your offensive line step up. When you had Myles Garrett out, the home wrecker of every single offensive line, the Hades, if you know Greek mythology, the god of death for all offensive lines out with COVID-19. You had the defensive line step up because you had good guys there. Yes, it's good to have, while it's good to be able to pay more, pay less people money, you also have to take into effect and taken into account really that what happens if someone gets injured and you have guys that can't hold on to the ball, that can't do what they do, that can't fill up the shoes that need to be filled.
Well, I mean, that's a good point, but you look at the depth on this roster now, and you have to have a feeling that going into next season and seasons moving forward, that if the Browns do lose somebody like Odell Beckham or Wyatt Teller, that obviously you don't replace guys like that, but you bring in talented players. And I think Andrew Berry's shown the ability to bring in guys with a lot of talent. So I think we should be kind of comfortable there, and I think it just gives me confidence in his decisions. So
yeah, and at the end of the day,
I'm not going to second guess him on
no.
signings or whatnot.
At the end of the day, Rod, we can bitch and moan all we want about, oh, who are we paying? But the fact of the matter is, we have a good team here now. We have a stacked
absolutely.
Team. And this team can do amazing things.
Absolutely.
That's what we need to look at now.
Yeah, this roster is I don't know. I would have to look at prior years rosters like back in the 80s, and then go all the way back to the 60s, but I don't know. This has to be one of the most talented Cleveland rosters, ever. And I know people outside of Cleveland will hear that and they're like, "Oh yeah, it's on paper. It's on paper." Okay.
No, and I understand where they're coming from. On paper, this team right now, based on what they did last year and adding those talents that they have, they look like they can go to the AFC Championship this year.
They do.
I'm not gonna say Super Bowl, and I'm not saying Super Bowl, Super Browns, and jinx it, but they can make that next step. Last year, they made the AFC divisional round, which is the second round out of 4 for the championship. They were in the round of 8. If you're looking at it in college, terms, they were an Elite 8 team. An Elite 8.
Yeah. Well, and that's why I brought up the wide receiver thing, because I don't believe this is the Browns' 1 year shot at a Super Bowl. I think they are building this team to be competitive year after year.
No, that's fair.
Obviously the goal this year is the Super Bowl. That's the goal for every team. For it's only realistic for maybe 10 teams, 10 or 15, maybe 10 or maybe 12, but the Browns are certainly in the group where it's realistic to think that they have a good shot at it or a shot at it. So, but yeah, I'm with you. I don't. I look at the roster and I just think, man, this is going to be a great season, because for me, the playoffs are about who's hot, who's healthy, who has home field, and all this stuff. It can come down to a couple of bounces and things like this. So for me, I'm not going to hang my head if the Browns lose by 3 points in a playoff game, no matter which playoff game it is. I'm going to enjoy this season because
the refs miss a call.
Well, yeah, I'm going to be pretty pissed off about that, but yeah, I mean, I'm going to enjoy this season because the Browns are going to win a lot of football games.
Oh, they're going to do great. This is a winning culture.
Absolutely.
And we have players that want to win. I can't wait to see these guys go. And I just want to talk about them, Rod. I can't wait. I'm itching this is going to be a bad analogy, like a drug addict looking for his next fix. I cannot wait to talk about this group that we have in front of us, because right now, as I had just alluded to, is on paper AFC Championship, if not better.
Yeah, so we've kind of I mean, we're still talking about the team, but we drifted off the 53. I want to get your impressions. Did you have guys you thought were going to make it that didn't, or are there guys that you're extremely excited about that made it that you weren't sure about?
Man, I wasn't sure about that Baker Mayfield guy, man. It didn't look. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Of course Baker's gonna make it. It's Baker friggin' Mayfield. No, I mean the guys that I'm really looking forward to is, and I'll tell you, my standout is one individual out of Louisiana State University that didn't get to play last year. In one of the first days of training camp, he tore his Achilles, an injury that is impossible to come back from. Now that he is pretty much healthy, I think Grant Delpit is going to come back and wreck some dudes up, man. He is going to impose his will. And you also have fellow SEC safety Richard LeCount III. You look at him. You look at those two safeties right there. They are underrated completely. They don't know the names, but they will once the season happens. Then you got the two guys from the Los Angeles Rams. You have Johnny Johnson III, Troy Hill. I mean, matched up with Greg Newsome. Oh my God. This is going to be a potential starting lineup in the defensive backs. And I know I'm jumping around a little bit, but I'm just looking at it. And I'm just salivating. So listen to this. Greg Newsome, Denzel Ward, Greedy Williams, Troy Hill, John Johnson III, and Grant Delpit, all on the field, all at the same time. Those guys are see ball, get ball guys. They are in the best sense of the word football guys. They know their position, they know what they have to do, and they will destroy everybody to make sure they do their job.
I think it's going to be really interesting to see what kind of base defense the Browns generally use. Obviously, they're going to use different packages in different situations, but you have to feel like the Browns are going to go 4-2-5 a lot, especially when Delpit's healthy.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Either have the three safeties out there, or if they can certainly go with three corners too, and play Ward, Newsome, and Hill, or Ward, Greedy, and Hill, or any three of those four.
Because they are. And I mean, you also have MJ Stewart and AJ Green there too. Remember, MJ Stewart had a great pick in that wild card round there. Remember that from back in January when we played the Steelers and we went up 28-0 on them?
I remember
Stewart
that
had
game.
a part to. I'll tell you what, I don't, because I was drinking after that, and I was on a straight cager. That was me in college, but not me anymore. So I'm a changed man, kind of. But no,
Yeah.
I mean, you have those guys hiding on the bench that are ready to go. And I'm gonna shift this a little bit here, because there's another guy hiding on the bench. Look in that linebacker room. You have Mack Wilson, Anthony Walker, Sione Takitaki, former Super Bowl MVP Malcolm Smith, Jacob Phillips. Please get better soon. There's another guy that's hiding on there. Yes, he has two last names, but when you put them together, it's J-O-K. Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, which is my favorite last name on the team now, replacing Sione Takitaki. But no, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah against Trevor Lawrence and the Minister of Pain, Urban Meyer, made teams realize, holy shit, that was a top 15 player we just slipped past.
He can do everything.
You know what? As I'm still a part-time contributor to the Dogland, I do have to tell an off-topic story here. I was the only one that said I need JOK. I had I had our guy Jack Duffin tell me, absolutely no way are they getting JOK. And they did. I'm just like, hey, Mr. Duffin, what's going on? So, but no, like Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah is a top 15 prospect,
That's
without a
one of
shadow
the
of a doubt.
that's one of the few times in Browns draft history where I have, after the first round, where I have stood up off the couch and yelled yes, just so excited that they got somebody like that. You're just like, oh my gosh. And when they traded and he was still available, you're like, oh, please let it be him. Please let it be him. Because you never know what they're thinking, at that point. You're like, oh, it's got to be him. But then when they took him, it's like, oh my gosh, him and Greg Newsome together. You're thinking, oh man.
3 words just to cover those first 2 rounds. Highway freaking robbery. Andrew Berry has 1,002 IQ. That is how smart he is. He knew to trade up, and guess what? We traded with the Steelers to get that pick. The Steelers.
So tell me this. Talking about Greedy, Newsome, and JOK kind of all together. Obviously, Newsome and JOK are rookies. So with a rookie corner, I mean, it normally takes some time for these guys to develop. I mean, to jump right in at the NFL level is not easy at a few positions. A corner is one of them. So do you expect Greg Newsome to be kind of the starter and out there pretty much all the time, opposite of Ward? Or do you expect them to kind of try to break him in? And the same thing for JOK. Do you expect him to be pretty much a full-time starter right off the bat? Or do you think the Browns kind of work him in with packages?
No one either. Because, as much as I want to see that, as much as I want to be greedy, no pun intended, and see that, you can't be unrealistic. There are some, there's an exception to the rule, Denzel Ward. We didn't have any cornerbacks. We threw Denzel Ward into the fire, and he shined.
He was the first corner taken in that draft. I mean,
exactly.
He's a number 4 pick.
He was a top 5 pick for a reason. But here's the thing. Greg Newsome had a great last year. He had his last year at Northwestern University was amazing. Same thing with Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah at Notre Dame. At Notre Dame. Great year. They are going to be careful with them. I think they're going to be careful with them because they know that these are guys that can't be thrown into the fire just yet. They need time. And I could be very well wrong on that. And you know what? If I am wrong, guess what? I'll say, holy shit, I'm wrong. And if come week 2 against Houston, they're starting to making plays, I'll say, holy shit, I was really wrong. But in my eyes right now, they are not ready for Kansas City week 1.
But you got to feel like Grant Delpit's in the same boat, right? Kind of try to get him, mix him in some plays, but I wouldn't expect to see a ton of Grant Delpit either.
It is so hard to do this, but I would agree. You have Ronnie Harrison Jr., you have John Johnson III. John Johnson III was an All-Pro, I think, last year. Found a Pro Bowl.
Yeah, and why rush Grant Delpit? And exactly. I mean, Richard LeCount, I mean, it's not like I want Richard LeCount with a ton of responsibility against the Chiefs. But you can throw him in there a few plays too.
It's hard to put a lot of responsibility on one person,
yeah,
especially against Kansas City. Even Baker, it's hard to put one responsibility on one guy. Granted, Baker throws a stupid pick with a minute left, down 5. That's dumb. Yeah, then we have to say, okay, that was Baker's fault. He could have made a better throw, or and that's situational. Maybe. Even though he has COVID and I wish him well, maybe Tyrann Mathieu has a just Arizona-like sense where he can just sense it and he just honey badgers the shit out of it. Who knows? But in that case, especially against Kansas City, you can't put responsibility on any one person because especially against AFC champs, Mister half a billion, you have all these guys. Shit. He's making $1,000 a second. I mean, come on. But no, like you can't put responsibility on every single person, or on one single person rather. It's going to be very difficult to do.
Yeah, so I think one of the key spots, and I don't want to talk too much just about Kansas City, but let's talk about this defensive line for the Browns because, man, this is going to be fun because, I mean, Kansas City's offensive line is kind of a question mark, and there are a few other offensive lines in the AFC North that are also a question mark, so we could have a lot of fun with this defensive line this season. So,
Billy.
so not only do we have Myles Garrett, but we have Jadeveon Clowney, who purportedly has had practices that would have accounted for up to 20 sacks if they would have let him touch the quarterback. And then we have this guy named Malik Mcdowell, who is just throwing guys around in preseason games.
I'm sorry for the impending F-bomb, but Patrick Mahomes is going to get fucking killed.
He might. I mean, you throw Malik Jackson out there,
Jesus
and
Christ.
Yeah, and Takk McKinley looks good in practice now. If the Browns go 5-man front with those 5 guys, there's no saving. There's just no saving Patrick Mahomes.
I mean, $500 million isn't going to stop him. And I mean, also you got to look at it. You have Jordan Elliott, you have Malik Jackson, you have the Ohio State product Tommy Togiai. Like, they're all phenomenal, and you line them up with a couple of linebackers like I'm not going to say Mack Wilson. Mack Wilson didn't do too well. Your Anthony Walkers, your Malcolm Smiths, hell, your Jeremiah.
Just bring JOK on a blitz too once in a while.
I mean, JOK he is going to be a successful version of what we wanted to see, or he's going to be a successful version in the NFL of what Jabril Peppers was at Michigan.
Yeah.
Where you're lined up against the University of Michigan, you look across the field, you see Jabril, and you just go,
oh crap.
Shit. You just go, shit. Because you see him, and you know he's going to make a play. Owusu-Koramoah has that potential to make an impact just like that.
So I've got to bring up one guy who I did not have on my 53 but made the team, and that is Andrew Billings, who looked like absolute crap in the preseason. He's on a guaranteed like I don't know if it's I think it's like $3.5 million guaranteed contract, and he made the team. So he's a guy I've been kind of conflicted on because he looked horrible in the preseason games, but when you listen to the Browns talk, it's like, oh, this guy, he's lost weight, he's super strong, he looks great in practice. I don't know if he's just not in shape yet or what the deal is. I thought the Browns were going to cut him, but he's around. So what are your thoughts on Billings? I mean, is this guy going to ride the bench till he's in shape? I mean, he's certainly not going to start because Malik McDowell is going to be out there throwing people around next to Malik Jackson. And I think Jordan Elliott's probably going to be the first guy off the bench at DT. So I don't know. I wanted to get your thoughts on Billings. And I don't want to hammer him too hard because I'm a Browns guy, a Browns fan, and I support all the Browns. So I'm really hoping that I'm just reading things wrong and that this guy is going to really help this team at some point.
I'm going to use a reference. James Harden played the shit out of the Houston Rockets, didn't he?
Yeah.
Showed up first part of the season looking overweight, looking, like he didn't know how the hell to play. Gets traded to Brooklyn with Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. looks like the fucking monster that he was and still is. Which is going to bring me back to my original question. James Harden played the shit out of the Houston Rockets, didn't he?
Yeah. So you have confidence in Andrew Billings.
I do.
Okay, good.
I mean, only time can tell. Only time will tell at this point.
I mean, I'm not, I'm not going to sit here and overly second guess Andrew Berry.
And you know what? If we are wrong, if I am wrong in saying that, I'll be the first guy to raise my hand and say I'm the asshole. Because I was wrong.
Well, yeah, you know what? I mean, they've got guys on the practice squad who will take that spot if he sucks for a long time.
Exactly.
So it's not a big deal. I think that maybe they're giving him a shot now. They were able to get these other guys to the practice squad. We'll talk about the practice squad in a minute, but maybe they figured, well, we'll give him a few more weeks, or we'll see what he's got, or we're good initially. We don't really need him the first few weeks. We'll see what happens. But I mean, I'm never going to root against anybody on the Browns. I just didn't think he was one of the best 53 guys from what I saw in the preseason. That was it. So,
that's fair.
So, I mean, there's obviously, we could talk about all 53 guys, but let's look at the practice squad, because man, this is fun. I'm telling you what. And my brother said this, I think, last week. Jeff said this about how many guys that the Browns played in the preseason that were second or third stringers that went out there and just beat everybody else they played. Okay, how many of those guys would have been starters for the Browns a few seasons ago? Look at the Browns. A lot of them, most of them, could have started for the Browns in prior to 19. Let's put it that way. So let's look at the practice squad and how many of these guys would have not only made the team, but possibly started for the Browns in 17, 18, back then. So you've got Jamarcus Bradley when, the Browns had no wide receivers. Sheldon Day, Jordan Franks, Porter Gustin, John Kelly, Elijah Lee.
I was kind of surprised that Porter Gustin got released. He had a huge interception against Pittsburgh in the wild card round as well. And also, I'm surprised that Sheldrick Redwine got dropped. That was a shocking one to me because he was doing well with us. I'm very happy to see that he got picked up by the New York Jets. Jets, Jets. Maybe now he's Sheldrick Greenwine. But at any rate, you have all these guys that are so good, and it just brings us back around to the conversation. That Cleveland Browns team looks good as shit.
Yeah, and I thought that Javonte Moffett was actually he played better than Sheldrick Redwine, but Moffett made it to the practice squad. Redwine got picked up, and I've got to say something to all of the. I don't want to sound sexist here, but my sister-in-law loved Sheldrick Redwine. She's got the jersey, but she's a red wine drinker, and I have a feeling there are a lot of women out there with red wine jerseys because it's just a cool jersey. If you like drinking wine, it's a cool jersey.
I'm gonna save your ass really quick. I also like red wine, so I love.
Yeah, I mean, I feel the pain. I mean, when Taki and Redwine were drafted, I thought, man, these are going to be two of the top selling jerseys for the Browns for years to come. And I'm disappointed.
You know who had the biggest kick with me out of those two names?
Who's that?
Dave.
Oh. Yeah.
Yeah. Dave and I were loving it.
Both names. Yeah.
Big Play Dave and I were dying about these names. And we still do.
I love the names. And I love the red wine jersey. you know. Yeah, so I mean, my sister-in-law still keep wearing it. I'm sure a lot of people keep wearing the red wine jersey. So, you know what? Nothing wrong with it at all. Uh, Javante Moffett make the practice squad. JoJo Natson, I did not think he would make the practice squad. I thought somebody would want him as their return man.
I
Kind of
honestly thought
surprised.
Hodge would have been on practice squad rather than JoJo. I honestly thought that.
Well, you know, I wasn't sure because of his salary. I wasn't sure somebody would pick him up, but man, it didn't take long. So,
Yeah,
and
no kidding.
Curtis Weaver, you know, the practice squad is great. We'll see if I don't know if he was completely over his injury. We'll see if he develops. He's a guy that's certainly worth carrying on the practice squad for a season to see kind of what happens with him. Because man,
Right.
if he can develop and end up being, you know, rotational defensive end, then that's definitely a good guy. And the Browns are only at 11 on the practice squad, so they've got room to carry up, you know, bring in up to 5 more guys. So yeah,
Yeah.
we'll see what happens there.
Yeah, no, I'm excited to see what we do, just in general. You know, I'm gonna go a little off topic here. Being gone from not only this state of Ohio, but from this region of the country. As you guys know, the University of Oregon is in the state of Oregon. That's geometry lesson there, Rod.
Thanks,
Er,
thanks, Alec.
geography lesson. It started with the GEO. Geography. I shouldn't be.
That's a college
My kid.
graduate for you.
Yeah, that's a college education and a friggin' journalist. Jesus Christ. Well,
Alrighty.
Rod can edit that in post. No, but anyways, Oregon. I was out in Oregon for 4 years. My love for the Cleveland Browns grew, and just being able to come home makes me more and more excited to be a Cleveland Browns fan, and being home and being in Chagrin Falls and being, you know, 30 minutes away from downtown Cleveland just makes me happy, because I'm able to watch the team that really made me fall in love with football and make me understand. It helps me be a better coach for my alma mater. You know, I watch the Browns and I think, how can I implement some of the stuff that they're doing, and talk about that and transcribe that into the high school Division 2 level or Division 3 level, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And just thinking about that stuff, and it makes it interesting. The Browns have made football interesting for me. So whatever the Browns do, I'm going to fall in love with. There may be some things that I question, but there are things that I absolutely love that the Browns have helped me love.
Well, we've been questioning things for, you know, a lot of us for 20 seasons, rightly so. So
I mean, yeah, but so
just
have
being
people
able
in
to
bad.
go ahead.
But I mean, also, so have people in bad marriages.
Well, sure. But, you know, just having some level of, I guess probably trust is probably the best word. Just because we've seen the results from one season. So we know that Stefanski and Barry have the ability to put a winner out there, and
But
the
I mean,
ability to judge talent and things like this.
also, but it also goes with the same in bad marriages. We've had a season where we were the second team in the history of the NFL to go on 0-16. You had Chris McNeil doing an 0-16 parade where everyone was sad. We were the factory of sadness. We had 1 year that was decent. We got a head coach. We thought, oh, this is going to be great. We went 6-10, and that coach got told to hit the bricks in 10 seconds after he got off the plane after the final game.
Yeah.
And then we get Kevin Stefanski. And so, yes, I am happy. I am gracious. But we also have to be cautiously optimistic in this. Yes, I have trust, but cautious optimism is going to be our best bet.
I think for me, I have I have faith in where this team is, and I have to look at this as kind of a long-term deal. So it's kind of limiting expectations season to season. But I feel like if they can keep this management team together, this keep these three guys together who are working on this thing, I think they're going to have the ability to put a competitive team on the field season after season. And I feel like if that happens, sooner or later, the Browns, are going to, I hate to say they're going to win a championship. I don't know, but they're going to be continually good. And if you're continually good, something great is bound to happen sooner or later.
I
That's
will
kind of
say
how I look
this:
at it.
if the Browns keep Stefanski and Barry together, Rod, the sky is the limit. The sky is the absolute limit. And even then, they probably can go to Jupiter and they say, let's go find something else.
Yeah, I mean, we're looking at the results from last season. It's a season when Stefanski really didn't even have a chance to, get things together. And when the Browns kind of struggled near the beginning of the season from not having preseason games and, not being able to practice together and things like that. And they still had a great season, after a couple bad games early because of not being able to practice together and not having, any basis for knowing each other and things like this. And they still had a great season. So you have to feel like you improve the roster, you can give this guy a chance to work with these guys, along with along with the rest of the coaching staff that, I don't know if the record's going to be better or not, but you got to have a lot of confidence in what this team's going to be able to do.
Exactly. And I mean, while I say I'm cautiously optimistic, I am faithful as all hell. I will scream dog check until I'm blue in the friggin' face. But, just making sure that we compound on our season. And this is something that I always compose to my high schoolers, or that I always tell my high schoolers. Confidence, not arrogance. I'm confident. I'm not arrogant. Because once you hit that bridge of arrogance, there's no going back. That's what happened in 2019. We had a decent year after we got Freddie Kitchens in as the offensive coordinator, and after that, things just went to hell. Went to what-the hell real quick because we got arrogant. Odell had one of his worst seasons since he entered the league. You had guys getting hurt. Baker had a terrible sophomore year. People started to count Baker Mayfield out, including a lot of Browns fans started to count Baker Mayfield out. And now we had Kevin Stefanski, where Baker Mayfield looked at the second half of the season. Once Kevin got his system going, once Kevin got his teachings in place, prove me wrong. Baker Mayfield looked like if he had started the season that way, he would be an MVP candidate.
Oh, I completely agree.
This year, and this is my bold prediction. This year, Baker Mayfield is going to be an MVP candidate.
I think that could be. I think that could be. Of course, I put a tweet out a month or two ago saying that Nick Chubb would get MVP consideration. I think that's possible too. So
Nick Chubb would absolutely get MVP considerations as well. Should he get? If he got as many touches as Derrick Henry, holy shit.
Well, we'll see. I just have a feeling that this is going to be a special season for Nick Chubb, and I've said it a few times. I feel like something is.
I'm gonna stop you there. It's not going to be a special season for Nick Chubb. It's going to be a special season for the Cleveland Browns.
No, I agree. I
understand where you're going, and I agree with where you're going. But we can't blame a successful season on one player. The entire team is what matters.
Well, and it's funny because Nick Chubb could care less about his individual stuff. He doesn't care.
Nick Chubb, you could make fun. You can crack the greatest joke in the world. Nick Chubb wouldn't crack a smile.
Yeah,
Nick Chubb would propose to if he has a girlfriend, his significant other in the future with a straight face and a monotone voice.
I don't know. I mean, Nick is very reserved and everything. I'm sure he's as hard a worker as any guy on the Cleveland Browns. And there's a lot of guys who bust their butts on the Browns.
And for good reason. The thing is, so many guys in this league talk. They're running their mouths. Like, you got so many people running their mouths. You have Tyreek Hill running his mouth. You have quarterbacks running their mouths. You have cornerbacks running their mouths. Nick Chubb doesn't need to run his mouth. He just lets his game do all the talking for him. Well, that is not seen enough.
Yeah, and with Nick, it's the way he thinks, because when he does his pressers, he doesn't have to stop and think about his answers. He thinks team first. When somebody asks him about an individual thing, it's like, it's like today a question about his individual goals, and he said, "I just want to win games for the Browns." And that's his honest answer. That's not some BS thing of, I'm not going to put myself above the team, so I better say this. That's who Nick really is. But I would love, and I'm sure everybody in Cleveland would love to go out and have a couple beers with Nick and just get him to crack a smile and get him to tell a story.
Get a couple of beers. You mean buy Nick Chubb the beers? He's not buying a beer in Cleveland for the rest of his life.
Oh, I would buy him the beers. Hell, there's no way I'm asking Nick to buy a beer.
No.
I'd buy him whatever he wanted to buy.
He has? Holy shit.
Yeah, I mean,
The fights that would be happening wouldn't be because you asked Nick Chubb to buy a beer. It'd be the fights to be the first one to buy him a beer.
No, I would buy him all the beers he wanted, and just to sit and talk with Nick Chubb, and completely everything off the record so he could say what he wanted, and
he probably wouldn't even say much anyway.
Oh, it wouldn't be anything different from what he says at the pressers.
Exactly.
But it would be fun just talking with him about great running backs, about Browns history, about everything else, anything else football. He's just a great guy.
My favorite question is, what motivates you? What motivates you to be the football player you are? You have Ray Lewis, didn't know his dad, so he started pulling out a deck of cards, 52 cards. Pulled out a different card. Whatever card he did the push-ups until he ran out of cards, and then he shuffled them again. That's why he has the number 52. Do you know that?
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Ray Lewis, his number came after the pack of cards that he used when he started training for football.
Interesting. This is a Browns podcast, right?
Yes, but I'm just using that as an example.
I'm just kidding.
Hey, it's a good story. It's good motivation.
No, it's a good story. That's a good story. But yeah, Nick Chubb. He's.
And you know what? Nick Chubb could have one of the greatest stories, hit the greatest motivational story behind his success of all time, surpassing Ray Lewis, surpassing Peyton Manning. Hell, whoever. He could have the greatest story, but you don't know because he doesn't say anything, and that's a good thing because you don't know what the secret is.
I've said it a dozen times, but I love this roster, but I would take 52 guys like Nick, or 53 guys like Nick Chubb anytime.
Exactly.
I got stuck on the 52 that you threw out there.
Aha!
You tripped me up.
Yeah, right. That's what I do.
Yes. All right. Any other thoughts on this 53-man roster, Alec?
Put him out there in Arrowhead and watch him fuck shit up.
Oh man, that's gonna be fun. I mean, For me, it's and I'll do another podcast, so we'll preview it and we'll talk about it a bunch. But this is a game that the Browns are not supposed to win. They're on the road up against a team that went to the Super Bowl. Week 1, Kansas City never loses week 1. Andy Reid never loses.
Against a pissed off team, too, that just got blasted in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, Patrick Mahomes is perfect, in September and all this stuff. So the Browns, the narrative is that the Browns really have no shot in this game. So it sets up perfectly for the Browns to go in and just have a nothing to lose attitude and just go in there and just play their butts off and just see what the hell happens.
And you know what? That was the narrative back in January. We didn't have a shot, and that turned out to be one of the greater games in the season. Better than the Super Bowl, honestly. Came down to a fourth down stop.
Super Bowl's never good. But yeah. No, you're right. You're right.
I mean, that game was the second best game of the season after Ravens Browns, when the Ravens came on Monday Night Football.
Yeah. Yeah, now the Browns have a defense.
Yeah, well, hopefully. We'll see. We'll see in a couple of weeks.
We will find out. So, any closing words for the fans of the Cleveland Browns, Alec?
Just remain hopeful, stay confident, never arrogant, because there's a fine line between the two, and once you see which one's the bad side, it always comes to bite you in the ass. And I look forward to it. I'm trying to get tickets to go to at least one of the games. I tried Steelers. Steelers were like $250 a pop. Then I'm looking at Lions and Bengals in January. That's $275 total. So I'm looking. At least what I got. I don't know. I'm trying to find everything and then try and see, because I need to go out there. I need to see my Browns win, which that's not going to come in short supply. It's going to be all over the place.
That's right. Some words of wisdom from Alec Saploin. Alec, why don't you throw your Twitter handle out?
Yeah, it's just my name, @Alec Saploin. You can also find me through the Chagrin Valley in Geauga County at chagrinvalleytoday.com. And follow me on there. Follow me on Instagram at the same handle, @Alec Saploin. And thanks, Rod, for having me. Thank you for throwing up the bat signal. Not Nick Shev's bat signal. It's a different one. Instead of the Batman logo, it has a beer or something up there.
Absolutely. All right. This has been the Browns Blitz, and we will catch you next time.